She had a big sale today.
Oh my God! I forgot to put back.
Just so we went to bed and then Donna's came over and visited them for lunch and then their house.
Did you ever get past her yourself?
No, I haven't. Did she see you? I
Everybody got quiet.
baked zita,
Oh, you were there?
bean soup with ham.
These guys here, usually what we're gonna share, because we're kind of,
It was good.
Walt here needs one. Agenda. So kind with your neighbor, or whatever. We got two left here, if somebody needs to. Hey! Holy smoke, who left the door open? Hey,
I got the key.
you got the key? Here, you come on in, mister, and sit down. How you doing? Let me get you a chair. Someone sitting here? No. All right. You want to sit up here, mister? Dick?
First you want me to hold.
Yeah. Tags, and the only reason we're doing that is just, we have some folks here that we haven't seen before. And when we're done with the program, we like to mill around and talk history, and it's nice if you just put your first name or whatever you want to put on here.
Are you recording it?
That's the bell.
Man, we have like a guy from Hollywood here.
My son.
You look familiar.
I'm his son.
Oh, we gotta stop there.
Is it yours?
We'll get started. Madam Secretary, are you in recording mode?
I guess.
All right. I hope you've gathered already that we're here to have a good time tonight. And we're here to talk some history, to make some new acquaintances, and to just learn a little bit more about the Portland area and surrounding towns. And Robert's rules do apply here, but loosely. So if we have to make big decisions, why we'll we have 20 official members, which is the most we've had in a very long time, I think since I've been involved, and so that's really great. If you want to join, we can talk after the program. What I'd like to do, since we have so many new people, is very briefly, we're going to go around the room, just give your name, and if you have any short comment about why you're here, or what you're interested in, or where you came from, we'd be delighted to hear it.
And I'd like to know where everybody's from.
Jeannie wants to know where everybody's from. All right, so we can start with Jeannie then, and we'll go all the way around.
I'm Jeannie Beaversdorf, and I'm from Portland area, and I've been here since the early 70s. And I'm a retired school teacher, and I love history, and I love the river.
My name is Cindy Reed. I came here in '53 with TRW open. My dad helped open it. I've been back and forth, and my husband and I, who's recording, have been here since '69. So,
Lanny, anything to add?
Lanny?
I'm Lanny Reed.
That's our oldest son, David.
I'm Dave. I just
Dave.
come down to hear Bob tonight.
Yeah, very good.
I'm Pam Swiler. I'm from the Ione County Genealogical Society, and I moved to Lake Odessa in 1983, originally from Kalamazoo, so glad to be here.
In the back there, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Jan Mosser, and I'm here because these gentlemen are going to discuss pharmacies. And since I'm the daughter of a pharmacist, a Portland pharmacist, I certainly needed to come tonight. And
that would be Charles Callahan.
yes, Charlie Callahan.
Very good.
And I'm from Portland, of course. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Former administrator of this here library.
For a while, about 30 years, right?
Moving around.
I'm Margaret Schaffer. We moved here from Muskegon in 2012. But I'm a first family of Ionia County because my family's been here for a long time. So we moved back to the family farm.
My name's John Lair, I'm just visiting from Portland.
Hi, John.
I'm Susan Quitz, and I'm happy to see you there, Bob,
Yeah.
Hi.
from Portland.
I'm Ford Wright. I'm from Portland most of the time, or have been, but right now we live in Lansing.
Boo.
I'm Evelyn Wright, and I live in Lansing.
Dan Lakin, Portland, forever, except for 18 years when we left and came back.
Jim Lakin, my uncle Fred Mead, that had the drugstore, and what I want to hear that Bob Mervau bought from my uncle Fred.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm Jerry Brown, and he's in between Fred Mead and me. And I'm here to make sure he keeps his facts straight. And I've been here longer than Dr. Jerry Brown.
Okay.
I'm Bob Mervau, and I have the program, and he came to be sure that I didn't get in too many fillers. But I thank you for having me.
I'm Diane Fish, and I came because I wanted to hear what Mr. Mervau had to say. I actually was born in Eagle, but I kind of grew up in the Portland area, went to St. Pat's. I've worked at the Review and Observer and several other businesses in town in the past. And I'm interested in history and genealogy.
Hi, and this is my Uncle Bob.
Hi.
I'm visiting here from Missouri, but originally I was born in Traverse City and my parents moved us to New Mexico when I was 4, and I basically lived there most of my life until we moved to Missouri.
And your name?
Marilyn Jones, I'm sorry.
And well, first to genealogy.
Yeah,
It was
genealogy.
a blessing that she picked this time to come. Otherwise,
All
I
the
wouldn't
stuff
have.
I've been scanning is.
We're glad you did. In the back.
I'm Dick McQueen. I've been here ever since 1935. I originated out of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, but this here is my hometown. And I put on a kind of a connoisseur about the history in diagram of the Divine Hotel down here a few months ago. And I'm working on some of the history around Portland yet. I got some paperwork home that got mislaid, which I will present here shortly.
All right, thanks, sir.
I'm Robert Torpsmith, usually known as Torp. I came here by a circuitous route, chasing women. I found this one.
No wonder I didn't find any.
I'm Jerry Torpsmith. His wife.
We're very glad you are.
And so am I.
Well, I'm Chuck Carr. I was born October of 1946 on Carr Street. That's just right up off of Union. Big house way in the back. And I've grown up in this town. I've seen a lot of changes. I remember when the Hotel Divine was there. I remember when the depot was still there. And I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of business come, and I've seen a lot of businesses go.
All right.
And I love Portland. I plan on living here until I die.
Paul, you're up.
What? I'm up.
We're just saying our name. Where we're from.
I knew I shouldn't have left.
That's what happened. Leave the room.
What are we supposed to be doing here?
Just a brief comment. Your name?
I'm Walt Sprague. I was born and raised in Detroit, came to Portland in 1940, and been here ever since, except for a little time out through the war.
Moved on Mike, that's prisoner of war.
Yep.
I'm Bev Dudek. I came here to work in, I came here to work in 46.
You're still here.
Been here ever since.
factory?
No, the Holly Company.
Holly
Oh,
Garber.
Holly Garb then.
Right.
I'm Shirley Bader. Roger's behind me. We moved here in 1968.
I'm Roger Hawbaker, came to Portland in '68 when Central Soy transferred us up here. I worked with the feed mill they were just building. I ended up, when I retired, I've been manager there for 25 years.
I'm Jane Riker. My folks live out on the farm on Goodman Road, not too far from where Ford grew up. And except for a brief time out in Arizona, we went out to Arizona for a couple of years, came back. My mom worked at Main and Allen in the early 50s. My dad worked at Ferris Implement Store, and then later on at Sandburn's Equipment. My mom and dad went here to school, Brush Street, and I went to the new high school, well, the middle school, which is the middle school now. And I have a couple relatives, well, not really relatives here, but a sister, a cousin here, Diane's a cousin, her sister's a cousin to me, and then Jerry Brown's sister is related to me. And Mr. Mervau, I think I went to school with your daughter, Andrea?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
she's here behind me.
Put my name on one, Mike.
I think that's the end, Mike.
Right.
Everybody is, and that only took 7 minutes. That was really fast.
And Jean, can you guys just get a count when we're done? We have a sign-on sheet. Is that going around?
It's down there.
Name and phone number tonight.
Blue pen floating with it.
Hey, all right.
A yellow pad, where's it?
No, it's coming.
Oh, I see.
But I lost a blue pen with the name tags.
Blue pen for the name tags. Does someone have the blue pen?
You have it in front of you.
I do. Why? What do I got the name tags. I'm holding things up here. The gentleman who just came in, your name please, and maybe just a brief
Lee
comment.
Starks, Portland.
Lee Starks, Portland. My name is Mike Judd. We're delighted that you're here this evening. We have an excellent program. Unfortunately, we have a short business meeting that we have to get out of the way. Not too much of decisions or anything, but can we briefly have the minutes of the last meeting? Just any highlights. Program.
Let's see. There were 21 people present, and this is the first I'm seeing this. And so, Tracy Radmaker announced that the 4x artist panels were removed from her basement and presumed delivered to the city hall.
We'll have more on that later.
We discussed the guided tour of downtown historic Portland. Approximately 40 people attended the tour, and we're going to participate in the Methodist Church event called Spring School for Adults in May 6th to 10th, and Jeannie is going to do a presentation. And then our next meeting is today, and Lanny gave a report on the computer program for the archives and showed some of the slides that he's been downloading. So, that's about it.
Running there.
Financial report. Did you put a summary in here? Or?
I wrote it
On the edge?
No, on
Is there something else?
Yeah, on the agenda.
yeah, I wrote it on the agenda.
Maybe it's that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it right here. Okay, if you want to take a note of our financial report.
Okay, I'll run the table.
In the savings account, we have $797.46. In our checking account, we have $618.60. We have an ongoing CD of $500 for a grand total of $1,916.06. Thank you for that report. Make sure that we don't let this guy get away without introducing himself. What's your name, sir?
Ken Walsh.
Ken, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Ken is a member. I have his name on our membership. We usually get correspondence from the various organizations around. They are available if you're interested in looking at them and finding out what's going on with the various organizations. So those are available. Our old business, it was mentioned in the minutes that we have 4x8 plywood sheets that were in the American Legion Hall for many years, painted by a local artist whose name Lee can help me with. Leah Munson, yes. They're beautiful, big paintings of the dam and of Shotwell Bridge and so forth. We rescued those out of that building before it was raised, and those have been in hiding in the Rademacher basement. And Torp.
There's a correction.
Sir?
I thought Doug had, Doug and I were working in my yard, and I asked him if we could use his truck and do this job, and he said, sure, just, and I said, well, as soon as I could find out when we can,
Tracy Rademacher.
yeah.
Yes.
So was home, we do it. So when they was done, I thought, well, Doug just
You
did
thought
it.
Doug Lefkey had done it.
But he told me he did not. So he doesn't know who did it.
I sent a thank you note to Doug.
I admit I did it.
You did it! All right, well, send a thank you note to that man in the corner.
They're in the basement of the city hall.
Yes, they are. We have them safe and sound.
That's funny.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Ken, did you move all 6 panels in there?
I'm not sure there were 6, but all that she had.
Were they all
With,
painted? Because we
Yeah.
only thought there were 2.
2 or 3.
no, there were at least 4.
4.
Wow.
Wow, we got more art than we thought. This is great.
We also put the Portland Flea Market sign down there.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, all right. Well, that settles that then. I was gonna cross this off and put it on new business next week. All righty.
Goodness.
There was a request for information regarding, it's in your agenda here, exact date of the transfer of Holly Carburetor to TRW. And I believe you have some experts here who can help you fill in those blanks. Perhaps after our event tonight. I'm going to go ahead and purchase 20 more of our Portland area 1869 to 1939 books, so that we have them available first for sale to our members, and then we'll figure out that we can sell them somewhere else in town or whatever. I'm going to pass this around. Also, I took the liberty of creating membership cards for those of us who have paid but don't have any evidence that you paid. And I noticed they hadn't arrived yesterday morning, and so I got to doing the research and following the links and so forth, and they've been sitting in Royal Oak in the post office for a week and a half. So I called the company, and they're going to give us a whole new set free and pay for the shipping, but that doesn't help us tonight. So I'm going to pass around what they would look like if they were here. Okay. Yeah, come on in. As soon as you get settled, we're going to have you introduce If many of you are following on Facebook, there's a wonderful site called Portland Hometown History. And just a wealth of photographs and information coming out of people's attics and out of their trunks and everything else, and getting scanned and presented. And along with that was the story about our local Portland poet, J.K. Swipes, at the turn of the century. And he wrote a book, probably 40 pages of his poems. And it's a small book, and it was leatherette bound. And I would like to reprint that book and have it available for our members and for sale. So I just wondered if there was comments on that. Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great.
All right. Because I have a copy.
Pretty interesting.
I would definitely like to bring that back. Portland has its own poet laureate.
Kathy Greeno is related to the people, Kathy and Greg.
Yeah.
Granddaughter of the
Yeah,
guy.
related to many here in town. So that's why that's on the agenda.
Did you have an estimate?
I'm just getting started, but I can present that to you, or I can go ahead and spend the money, whichever. Whichever we want to do.
Do you need a motion on that, or?
Yeah, let's have a motion.
I make a motion that you go ahead with that project, sounds like a great idea.
I'll second.
We have a second.
I second it.
Any more discussion?
Wait till the secretary.
Yeah, I gotta write that down.
Jeannie made the motion and Margaret seconded.
Motion was that?
Margaret Shepherd.
Discussion? Anybody else?
Oh, what's the name of it?
J.
Oh,
K.
okay.
Swipes.
AK Swipe.
J.
JK. Okay.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Our guest from Ionia area, Pam Swiler, asked to take a few minutes on our agenda today. So Pam, I'm going to give you the floor.
All right, just 1 minute, that's all I want to take of your time, because I know you're anxious to get with this program. As you know, or may know, the Ionia County Genealogical Society has been working very hard to preserve the history of the veterans of Ionia County. We have already published a book on World War II, we've published one on the Korean War, and now we are starting the Vietnam War. This one may be a little tougher because there's a lot of emotion involved in it, a lot of hard feelings and stuff, but we want to honor the veterans of Ionia County. So what I'm asking from you today is to take one of these forms home with you. If you know anyone who has ever been in Ionia County that served during the Vietnam War, and they did not have to go to Vietnam. They just needed to serve during the time period that we're talking about, which is November 1st of 1955 through April 30th of 1975. It's quite a long period. There are folks that have served on the home front, protecting us from the riots in Detroit and everything else. And there are those that served overseas, and so all the information you need is included here. So I'm just going to pass this around. Take one with you. If you don't know someone, please leave it somewhere so someone else might get it, in your local doctor's office, in your dentist's office, in the library upstairs. Could use some extra copies. We need help getting this word out because we do not want to miss one veteran, and it never fails. As soon as we publish the book, we start getting people calling and going, I didn't get in there. We work on these projects take about 3 years to do, and we spend the first 2 years collecting data, and the third year is actually putting the book together. So it's not that we're not getting the word out, so we appreciate any help that you can do for that. So I'll pass these forms, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to help you with.
And copies of both of those books you mentioned are in the library upstairs, so they're available. And the requirement, Pam, was just during that time period that they were serving, they just had to live in Ionia County, or?
They could be living in Ionia County today. They could have grew up in Ionia County. They could have worked in Ionia County and lived someplace else. They did not have to live in Ionia County at the time that they served. But at some point, there had to be a connection to Ionia County for us to accept them. And if there's any question at all, we would rather take them, and put them in there anyway with a note than to leave them out. So.
Okay, well, that's a wonderful project, and thank you very much for that. I'm running out of things on the agenda. We have a section called Other Matters. Yes.
Hi. Lee posted a picture of my grandfather on the historical site, and he said he got it from the scrapbook up in the library. So I went looking for it. The scrapbooks are in really, really poor condition. So I would like to make copies of them and catalog them and put them in some kind of an order so that they're easier, that it's easier for people to find articles, plus it would preserve the articles.
Okay, can you work with Lanny and myself after the program, and we can talk about what you have in mind?
Okay.
Okay.
I think some of that's already been done. I think some of that's already been done, so you might want to double check on that.
Okay, we can talk, yeah, let's see what we've got done already and what we need to get done. That's great, that's exactly what we're after. Is there anything else for the good of the group tonight? Okay, not hearing anything, I would turn the floor over to our guest speaker, a distinguished gentleman who's been a member of this community and served well. And we've asked him to just share a few memories and generate some conversation. And as he said, he has Marilyn is here with him to help with the presentation. So Bob, I'll turn it over to you. Bob Mervau.
I thought that eventually you'd get to this, but hello, friend. And at this, I have to exercise my age because as I receive and retain information, it doesn't stick long. But anyway, I have a little presentation and kind of a workup to Portland. And it's a little bit about my family and me. And I don't think that there's anything more boring than having a person talking about themselves, and when they're at my age, particularly. This here, as you see it, is my apprenticeship license that I applied for in 1941. My father was a pharmacist in one location for 42 years at the tip of the Little Finger of Michigan, Northport. And he had a family of 7 children, and we, of course, went through quite a few brutal winters up there, but the thing that was in the summertime, we had a couple of cherry orchards and a drugstore and a gift shop and the post office and a doctor's office. Everything went for 3 months to stay alive for the next 9. And, but anyway, if you just show that next one up. This is his license, and it's 1913. He became a pharmacist. It was just 100 years ago, and I thought that that was significant. Down at the bottom are his grades that he had when he took the pharmacy board examination. And then I think he was a teacher before he became a pharmacist, and so was my mother. And I often thought that when report card day came around, that was the longest supper that we ever had, because he looked at each one and, you know, went filed down to deportment. And if you passed, it was all right. But anyway, he was fundamentally the thing that I was interested in. And when I went down to work, I followed him around, but he never said much of anything to me. And I'd have to ask questions, and he was smarter than I was because he knew that he had me hooked. And I liked what he did. So that's how I got acquainted with pharmacy. So I came up, and in 41, Marilyn's mother was in college, and she went 2 years, and then she came back and she said, Bob, she said, I think you should go. We couldn't both be, she said, Dad couldn't send us both at the same time. So I started out in 43, because she went from 41 to that time. And I got 3 terms in, and then I got called into service. And that lasted for 3 years. And I came out and I wasn't sure that I wanted to go back and start all over again, because I'd be a 20-year-old completing with, and it was hard to get back to that study program. But I did, and I had to, the first thing was, I missed a part there. When I asked my dad about going to school, he said, it's a 4-year course. He said, what 2 years do you want to take? And I said, well, I'll take the first 2. And that was the worst thing that I ever did, because when I came out, I went back and I went in and finished off with the GI Bill, and he never did ask about it. But anyway, that was the way I got involved in pharmacy. And my first job first place I went to practice after I got my license was over in Owasso. And that was quite an experience working for somebody else, and it was a pharmacy. And the first thing, that the way they had it then, the patient would come in and present the prescription to you. You went back into the prescription department, and there was a huge ledger, and you rewrote the whole prescription before it was compounded. And I thought, whoa, this is something. And their archives was really something, with bound ledgers that you had to go to. Anyway, I stayed there not quite a year. There's a friend that I knew in pharmacy school came over, and he said, I've got a job for you. I said, I've got one, I don't need another one. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's a setup with 9 guys over in the thumb area. They had 3 drugstores. And I said, well, if it's so good, why are you leaving? And he said that he wanted to go with Abbott Laboratories on the road, and he didn't care about retail pharmacy. So I went over and looked after it, and I joined up with them, and it was pretty much a sketchy business deal. I didn't realize it until I got going. The head honcho started playing the horses and going down to Florida. And eventually there were a couple of men came in and introduced themselves to me, because I was running that place, and they said, we're so-and-so. One was the president of Hubbard State Bank, and the other one was a retired Ford dealer. And they said, we're taking over. They wanted to know if I would work for them. Well, there was a few things that had to be done, but I did. And I worked for them for 7 years, and finally it came to where one was going to sell out to the other. And I bowed out. I figured, well, in 7 years, if I could get their money back and with interest, I should be doing that for myself. So that's where I wound up here. And I was looking for a store, and there was a salesman that had called on my dad, and he heard that I was looking. And he said, you know, in the letter that he sent, he said, you might go over to Portland. He says, there's a store over there that is for sale. He said, it's probably not what you might be looking for, but he says, historically, it's a very sound business. I had his letter in here. But anyway, we came over, my wife and I, in '58, and it was in the fall. And we drove up in front, went in, and I talked to Fred, and we just didn't know too much, and we didn't drive around. And we thought, well, where is the school, you know? And everything is being down here, and we didn't see that. So I told Fred that I would let him know. And so I went back it was in March. And the first time we came down 66 and we didn't see much of anything. The next time we came around by Mirror and Lyons, and it was warm weather. And we hit the golf course out here. And my wife said, oh, they're playing golf. And that's her thing, you know. And so I went in and talked to Fred, and I came back out. And she says, well, what are you going to do? And I said, probably we'll be making a deal here. And that was about the way it happened. But when I came, the Divine Hotel was working, and Dewey Hesse was here, and Bob Lear was across the street, Howard Smiley was at the A&P, and Laban Smith was next door to me. No.
Down to
yes, and
clothing stores.
Bessie and Leo had the clothing store, Laban's. And by heavens, we had a lot of hardware. And there was Swarthouse, and it was, and we had the penny saver, and it was just going, and Joe with his 5 and dime there, and it was great. My little girl, she went, the youngest one, went there, and she was so impressed, and she came back that night, she said, Daddy, I went to the diamond store. So anyway, we had a lot of activity, a good the Chamber of Commerce, and I think the Dodge Light Brothers were still, and across Minkley had the Ford Garage, and yeah, we had pretty active business life here. And then I got to getting a few things together here, and Jerry this guy here, I had to put up with him for 4 years, you know, and he finally made it. Anyway, in the deed and abstract, it starts out in the name of Stella Dexter Perigo to the Crane Drug Company in 1920. And the A.A. Mack was the treasurer. And then the Crane Drug Company sold to A.A. Mack in 1924, a 4-year span. And then from that was, he sold to Harry Owen in 1928, and then Harry to Fred Meade in 1951. So it was a span of 31, or 23 years there. And then Fred sold to me in 1959, and I had it until 1984 and then sold to Jerry. I always remember that as quite, we hadn't talked too much about that, but when you went down to Arlington, Illinois, that was a lesson, wasn't it?
Oh,
Or was it
Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
Yeah.
Anyway, he came back, and I told him, I said, well, whenever time you have time off, I want some of it. And he followed through on that pretty well. I appreciated that.
Were his.
Huh?
All my vacations were yours.
Yeah, right. And then it came time Harold, the realtor.
Green.
Green.
No.
Mick
Yours?
Green.
Nobody can read.
Harold Green.
Yeah.
Came by one day and he said, do you ever think about selling your place? And I said, I'd sell anything I got the right price. He says, well, there's been a couple of people looking at it. And he said, not only once, but twice. And I said who it was, and he says, a married man and his wife are both pharmacists that are working over in Grand Rapids. And that, I thought, well, I called him. Oh, that's Harold, says, well, he says, I said, I already have somebody. And he says, you do? And I said, yes. And he said, you have it in writing? I said, I don't have to have it in writing. And I called up Gary, and that's where it started from there.
You forgot to tell me about it.
Well, you know.
Yeah,
So, and that's how it started out. It's been a very good place for my family, and it's been home, and we've been now here, living here 52 years, and I don't think it could have been any better place for us than this. But I have a few things in here that I saved, and in January of '63, Ionia and Montcalm County got together and formed an association. And I think that was a good thing, because when the larger pharmacies came into being, that was when I had a chance to do a lot of the things that I was trained to do in compounding and so forth, but that they didn't have the time to do. So that plus the fact that when the three-party payment type insurance thing came to being in 1969, we went to Kent County, and that was when Blue Cross presented their program, and we all signed up for it. And the fallback onto that was that we had really not any bargaining rights. And so there was a petition to the United States Congress that said then for three-party pay participants, that they had the right to join together to present their program and still not be within the realm of the antitrust laws. And I wrote a letter, and I got a response from them, Gerald Ford. And I have the letter here, and it told where that we had to kind of hold back because amendments to a bill, and if there are too many, you eventually goes back to committee. And then later on, I got another one where that they put it back onto the floor. But I was quite happy that we got some recognition. The other thing was the Medicaid program. Now this is where, when I first came, I had a chance, you know, to talk to people when they came in. And as the government regulations kept coming in, it lessened that thing, and the paperwork became more. But the Medicaid program is still with us, and at one time we were doing the work and not getting paid. And when we were told in the first place that our money would be a 10-day turnaround, it was. This one guy had $4,000 out, and he called them, and they said, we'll send you your money right away. And he said, well, I thought it was on a 10-day program. He said, we'll get right to it. And it was. He sent him $10. But anyway, we had money, they had money laying around, and our representative, state representative Stanley Powell, he came to our association meeting, and we told him about it, and he got down and looked into it, and it was just laying there. It needed some help with that. Well, anyway, that's the political part of it. The other part was when I came, we had a charge service. And I always felt that that was a forerunner to the credit card system that we have now. But the APR that we had was 0. And in this one, I had a fellow and I had the letter here, and he had $10, and I told my gal, well, just send him a note. I said, he's forgotten about it probably. And I'll just read the last part of this because I thought it was quite good. I can tell you honestly that except for a miracle that happened, I could not enclose this check. The wolf that comes to my door every day just had pups in my kitchen. And I sold them, and here's your money. And then there's another little note. I saved these, and I made up a book for each one of my, I have 3 daughters, and they each have one. And this one here is, Bob, please send, I won't say the name, some shampoo for lice. Her sister picked it up at school. and then this is the one that I found this after we took over, and it's a almanac. It's called Rush's Almanac, and it's 1875. And I thought, well, you know, this is nothing. But it's Frank M. Webster, Portland, Michigan. Drugs, medicines, and chemicals. And fancy and toilet articles. And this is, I put it back here to validate the date. And it's on an almanac. And it has June 1875. It's the 6th month and 30 days. Then on the other column here, they have headlines. Why is it? Is Irish Glazier the popular verdict? A candy boy. And this one kind of struck me, and it said, in struggling. To make a dull-brained boy understand what conscience is, a teacher finally asked, what makes you feel so uncomfortable after you have done wrong? My dad's big leather strap. But that's this kind of thing that's in that. And there's another, this was a note that was sent. This was not here, it was in Sandusky. And it says, send home with my child 1 Wild Room hair cream and 1 package of sugarless gum. And this is a letter from President Ford. And I think that's about the extent of it. That, well, yes, this is kind of a backup to that. These were some of the things that, the different places were, well, and some of them here. But you've probably all heard of Lydia Pinkham's vegetable compound. And this is King's discovery for coughs and colds. And that, yes, is Chamberlain's colic relief for flatulence or wind colic. This is Red Raven Splits. The best known laxative water in the world. And this was given to me. Now, this is from your family, Chick Lakin.
Yes, sure.
He was a pharmacist. And when we had our centennial in '69, and I think most of you people remember that, it was really a great event. And everybody decorated their window and everything. And Chick came in and gave this to me. I didn't let you have this because I wanted it.
I took the big one.
But it's a herb mortar. In other words, when you used like cinnamon, you don't never use it for anything else. You just smelled it, you know, that you knew that that was what it's going to be used for, and glycerizer or anything else. This here is Baracalate tablets to stimulate your bile. Yeah.
I see they're all gone.
Yeah. And in here, this is a medicine glass that was,
2 shots of
that's, he gave, Wallace Crane gave those out as, yeah, so that's from that era. And I think that's about,
Forget the little coin thingies in the bag, in the blue bag.
oh,
I think those are really neat.
oh, yeah. You know what these are, don't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's just pass them around, they can look at them. There's one scruple in there, that's 20 grains, and 3 scruples would be 1 gram. 8 grams is the full ounce. And that's what we that's the apothecary weight. Of course, we've got avoirdupois weight, and we have Troy weight, and we have metric system, and apothecary. So this is what we would use in making a powder medication. So that. And Jerry, do you have anything I'd like to have you add a few words in your practice?
I started with him 2 years after he bought the store.
Oh.
So I was there for 20 years. Actually, I was there for 23 years. Off and on, of course. But anyway.
Bob, I've got a question. I know when you bought it from my Uncle Fred, did that have the soda fountain in it?
It did.
Now,
Yep.
here's my question. When I was a little squirt, I used to go down and get a tin roof. Can you make a tin roof?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Vanilla,
For 12 cents.
Chocolate with peanuts, you know.
For 12
Yeah, you
cents.
gotta have that,
Oh,
right?
wow.
How about
Exactly.
cherry phosphate?
Oh, yes, oh, yeah. We had lots of those
How
going.
about pine float?
Yeah.
That's what I started with.
Yeah.
That's a toothpick and water.
Yeah.
But that had a thing, when, I think the youngsters could go out of school for lunch, and I'm telling you, that we had just 7 stools there.
Good fill up fast.
Yeah, that door almost came off the hinges, everybody wanted a stool, you know, and, you know, it was something. I probably may have kept it a little bit longer, but one day a guy came in and he told me he was from the agricultural department, and I thought it was probably some thing to do with my veterinary medications I had a little up there. It wasn't, it came under the food department, in the agriculture, I couldn't, and he said that he came there to make an inspection. Well, I didn't pass. And he said, I said to him, I said, well now, were you here, when were you here the last? And he said, a year ago. And I said, well, could I see the report of that? And Fred got a good report. What they wanted to do is have me fix it up, But it wasn't possible because the replacement that I had to do to get it up to that would been too much, so we had to let it go.
You had it for 3 years, though, didn't you, Bob? You took it out in 62.
Huh?
You took it out in 62.
62.
So you had it 3 years.
3 years, yeah. We had coffee, and the one place I had worked before I came here, and that one, the store that I had that was going bankrupt, they had a whole lunch counter, sandwiches and the whole thing. And the courthouse complex was just across the street, so a lot of those folks we got over there. And this prosecuting attorney, I knew him, his name was Homer Forrester. And one of the girls came to me and she said, he doesn't pay tax. I said, who doesn't pay tax? He says, that man right over there. And it was a prosecuting attorney. So he had his hat there on the counter. I walked over and took it and put it underneath the counter. And he says, I want my hat back. And I said, you don't get it back until you pay your tax like everybody else. And he said, well, I'm going back. And he did write out a writ of replenishment to recover his hat. And, but anyway, fair is fair.
Can I ask you a question?
Surely.
Did you come before or after Carl D. Bywater?
After. After, yes.
Okay.
Well, that was right because, Jan, when I came, I think it was the year before, your dad and Charlie Quick had a fire, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes.
We came to Portland in 1954.
Yeah.
And Dad and Charlie Quick, two pharmacists, bought the store from Carl Bywater. And then within a year, about the next year, is when the big fire came and destroyed the drugstore entirely, and we had to rebuild.
Yeah. So. I think that was, and I have to defer, and not, it was the way it was. He was a good competitor. And we got together, he said one time, he said, we were both open on Sunday. And that was not, so he took one Sunday and I took the other.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then the other thing was, while we went to one of these meetings, we'd ride oftentimes, together. We kind of decided that we'd trade back and forth. If you got a prescription, you didn't have it, we sent one of the girls up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at the end of the month, we totaled up. Had just a great,
It was wonderful, Bob.
Yes.
People today don't realize how two people can be in stores almost real close to each other and be that open with one another and friendly, and wasn't really a sense of competition at all.
I remember, and the young people, of course, you don't need to hear this. They were, the kids that had a chance to work, and it was just great. And at one time, Janet and Marvin Fedor, with her 14 children, she's
passed away.
Yes, she just passed away. I hired
Jane, and her twin sister was up at the other store, at your dad's store. And one time when we were exchanging, and this lady had gone into your dad's store, and then she came down there, and she turned around and she said, "Didn't I just see you?" Yeah, it's just been a great thing for us, and I think that and basically we have that small town thing. It's still there. But one of the things I think nationwide, and I don't want to go on too far, it's like we've lost the 2 R's, respect and responsibility. Yeah, we need to get that back. And then I think with a little bit of that, we have a tendency to have little enclaves. This is my group. This is the way we think, and if you don't think, you're outside the loop. Yeah, and we need to get rid of that. Said it all. I
Hey
think
Bob,
that's it.
and your wife got to play golf.
Did she, that was something else. Just a minute, Chuck. That was, when we came, we rented down Bruce and Lucille Young's house, where Carolyn Smith Cross lived.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in there, and they moved to Jackson because he was in the banking business. Lucille was McClellan. Anyway, they came to us and said that they were selling, and wanted to know if we wanted it. And Maxine said, Vern Minkley went into the realty business, and he'd come and they'd go and take a look around and everything and come back. And this went on for quite a while. And Maxine said, "I don't want to remodel somebody else's place." I said, "Well, what do you have in mind?" She said, "I found a place." And I said, "Oh," I said, "let's go." We got the kids in the car, and we drove out Divine, Maynard Road, and we kept going. And all of a sudden, the gravel ran into sand. And I said, Maxine, anytime that you were within 10 miles or 10 feet of a shopping center, you thought you were in the wilderness. And I thought, this is... It took me a long while to find out why we built where we are. It's because it was halfway between the bowling alley and the golf course. It worked out pretty good, yeah. Yes, Charlie.
Hey Bob, do you remember when,
my chimney burned out and you came and put it out?
Yeah, I was there. No, that was at your house.
Yeah.
No, when Portland on Friday night, they, all the customers, during the week would fill out these little gray slips about yay long, about that wide, okay? And they'd have drawings on Friday night. At 9 o'clock, this place was packed. Portland Street was packed.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, I do. And then Falls Augustine had a popcorn machine down at the end of the street.
Yep.
And people would come down and well, golly, at 10 o'clock at night, they'd start breaking up, and a nice warm summer night, everybody, yeah, it was just...
I don't know why we can't do it again.
I don't know. It's doable, but
they want people to come back downtown. Hey, draw them back downtown. That's the way I think about it. I was just wondering if you remember.
I do. I certainly do. Dan Watson was I think he was. Was he the township? Wasn't he clerk? Or no?
Well, I know he had something to do with the...
He had to
cemetery
because he wanted to set up and register people to vote. So I put a table up, and Yeah, there was a lot of, and there was, our city policeman,
Jay Clark.
Jay Clark. He was Mr. Sleuth himself.
Find it down at the county dock, don't tell
He
me
could
why.
stand there with his back to the, you know, and looking all things over, and somebody go by, and he was picking up information here and there, and all of a sudden, the bad guy was caught.
You remember Mr. Slocum, I think, the barber, that used to stand up in the stairway, sit down, and you get hamburgers and stuff like that?
I don't know, Mr. Billy, I remember him, he was the barber up down this
I remember
end.
being up there.
Yeah, well, that was it, let's see, we had, Herb Schrauden Jr., he was barber, and Jerry was, and Fleetwood.
Yeah, on Bridge Street right there.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Moose is at.
Yeah. And Walt Sprague was just starting to learn the business over there from his dad. And Bill, wasn't your dad's name Bill?
Yeah, Bill,
Yeah. And there's a lot of interesting things. But, I think.
I just go with they saw the pictures.
Did they? Oh, okay.
It kind of added to it, went through the course, and saw what it looked like, and you working there.
And Jerry. What's your name?
Did you see the book yet? Did you see the book? Not sure.
Well, all right, I think what we'll do is adjourn the meeting, but if you stay and talk history, talk whatever, you know, that you enjoy. Bob will be here for questions, and you can see when folks that are here tonight that ordinarily don't come or haven't come in the past, you all add to the meeting, and your memories are important, and it just adds to the whole program. So please come back again. If you think about you're interested in joining, dues are $15 a year or $20 a couple family. And we have maps here. These are $15, I think. We'll be happy to take your money for them. I have Clarence Kellen postcards for free, if you want a couple of those. So with your permission, I'd like to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
I mean, Mervau.
My niece was here to share it.
Yes, your technician, very good. Thank you, Marilyn.